Hello and greetings, my friend. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Schifferly, and today we're answering a question from the RDP mailbag over at reddeltaproject@gmail.com, basically asking, paraphrasing here, how to reduce or eliminate the damage of a binge or an overeating episode. Now, this is something that I used to struggle with quite a bit myself back in the days when I used to have a lot of overeating episodes or binging, and then I would have a really restrictive diet, and then I would binge again, and it was a very vicious cycle. But the thing to recognize about this is that the quote damage, if you will, to your weight and your health and all of your goals isn't actually in the binge. It's what's causing the binge in the first place. So basically, like all things in fitness, we have a process, a yin and yang sort of thing, as with diet, which is a healthy diet is typically composed of the appetite or the need for food, and then we consume food in order to satisfy that appetite. However, when we have an overeating binge type of thing, that's usually indicative of an overly restrictive approach to diet, or over dieting, if you will. You know, we've always heard of overtraining, where we take a good thing and take it to an extreme level where it's no longer so good. Well, over dieting is the exact same thing, where sometimes people will start to have a little bit more of a healthier approach to their eating. They cut back on processed foods, they a little less sugar, a little less excessive calories, less out drinking, alcohol, that sort of thing. And that, for the most part, is a good idea. However, just because some is good doesn't mean more is always better. So what ends up happening is we have an overly restrictive approach to our diet, whatever the restriction is, restriction of calories, restriction of food groups, restriction of meal timing, like sometimes people will take a fasting approach a little too far. And it's that restriction that actually causes the damage. It's causing a lot of stress on body, mind, and lifestyle. And to some degree, we can certainly handle a good degree of stress from such restriction, and there's a time and a place for that. But the caveat is, most of the time when we employ such stress, it's for a very finite amount of time. People who are getting ready for a photo shoot, stepping on stage, or even with calorie hacking, it's like, yes, this is tough, but I'm only going to do it for a week or two, or for a few days. But then I'm purposely not going to restrict myself anymore. However, over-restriction usually happens when we're taking on a dietary approach where, like, I'm just going to have a lot of restriction indefinitely. So that stress on body, mind, and lifestyle just builds, and eventually we end up cracking, and then comes the binge. But the binge is in response to the over-restriction. It's not causing the problem itself. Moreover, a single binge or once in a while is really no big deal, because remember that our outcomes from our diet and our exercise behaviors is not from what we do every once in a while, but what we do on a regular basis. So if you go and eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's, or go and overindulge at the Chinese buffet once in a blue moon, that's perfectly fine. It makes you feel uncomfortable for a short term, but it won't have any real negative effect. But when you believe it does, and you think, oh my goodness, I did this huge binge, or then I need to, huge restriction. And the bigger the restriction, indefinitely, leads to bigger binges, and bigger binges with bigger restriction, and it's a very vicious cycle to get out of. So how do we undo the damage from the over-restriction? Well, it's simple, is to recognize that the purpose of a healthy diet is not in restriction, like a lot of ideas in our dietary culture will promote, of like a healthy diet means you don't eat these foods or you don't eat so much and stuff. And yes, that is a good approach, but only if you're overeating to begin with. If you're not overeating, restriction does you no good whatsoever. In fact, it just does more harm than good because of that excess restriction. So the goal of a healthy diet here at RDP is always eat to satisfy. Satisfying your appetites is what promotes a healthy diet. When your appetites for your hunger and metabolic support, your nutritional support, and yes, even your hedonic support are met, there's no need to binge. There's no need to overeat. If you decide to indulge in a chocolate chip cookie or a little bit of ice cream, you have a small amount, you satisfy your appetite, and you walk on. There's no overindulgence, and therefore no quote-unquote damage. So as we head into the New Year's, eat well, my friends. Satisfy yourself with the foods that bring you the most enjoyment and the most nutritional value, and be strong and be healthy for a strong 2025. See you in the next video. Be fit and live free.